Hello everyone, my name's Jean, and if you haven't watched one of my videos before, on this channel I do mostly unboxings and things with the odd little bit of ad hoc stuff thrown in. Now I'll preface what I say next by giving you a trigger warning, and I'm going to really try hard not to get upset. But this video, and I'm going to try and keep it brief as well because it's not nice. So the trigger warning is about furry friend passing. So anyway, I tried making this video before, and before today, a few days ago, and I really just cried all the way through it, and I thought nobody really wants to just watch a video of me blubbing along and not probably making much sense either. But yeah, a week ago, as a Friday of last week, I went out to do a volunteer shift. Before I went out, while I was getting everything together, I tried calling Louis in to come and have some breakfast before I left, so that I knew that he would have eaten before I left the house. But it was a nice morning. He didn't want to come in, and he just sat on the path looking at me as if to say, "Oh, what are you on about? It's nice. I want to stop out here, and I'm not really hungry." So I finished getting myself ready, got my bag ready, went out to get my taxi, and he was sat on the path, and I talked to him for a little bit and stroked him and tickled his chin, and he purred and was totally normal. And then I went away, did my shift, came back, and when I got out the taxi, our next door neighbour came down her path and said, "I've got some bad news for you. It's about Louis." And you know, when someone says that to you, you just know what's going to happen. If you want to stop here and not watch the rest of this, you know, I'm totally fine with that. You know, you look after yourselves, and if this is upsetting for you, you know, I don't want to upset anyone because it's not nice news anyway. But yeah, she says about an hour after I'd gone, she saw him and she went outside and she was talking to him and stroking him, and she gave him some biscuits and he were fine. He purred, like just doing Louis doing normal Louis things. And then she went to get a bus, and her son that still lives at home phoned her and said, "I've just found Louis under the privet hedge." Now our houses, a lot of them have still got privet hedges that border the gardens, that were planted when the houses were put up, and next doors have still got theirs. And Louis, her son, found him on the pavement side of the privet hedge, and he got a blanket and picked him up and took him to their house. And she says that when she saw him, it looked as though he'd been asleep and just stretched and gone. So thankfully it looks as though he wasn't run over, and no dogs got him or anything like that. There was no blood or anything like that, thankfully. I'm really, really glad of that. And I suppose you can't expect a furry friend to go in any better way, can you? Excuse me. And he was, even though he was an old cat, I mean, we estimated that he was about 20. He was fit as a fiddle. It was getting a little bit creaky in the legs, you know, as most of us do as we get older. But, you know, when he wanted to, he could run. I know a few weeks ago, there was we have foxes round here, and I'd gone up to the toilet after giving Louis some food on the step. He didn't want to come in and eat it. And I heard a fox, and it was like a loud, sharp yap. And so I ran downstairs and opened the door, and he ran inside, puffed up like a toilet brush, and ran upstairs. So I got his food inside, and he stayed indoors for the rest of that night. But yeah, he dashed up the stairs like the end of his tail was on fire. I mean, thankfully it wasn't. The fox had scared him, though. I can honestly say that I've never met a cat that was, excuse me, so gentle and so polite. He was an absolute star. So, me and the next door neighbour went up the road to tell the woman that he used to live with when he came on to the street what had happened, and she probably wasn't being unfeeling, but she sounded as though she was. She just didn't. I mean, he'd not lived with them for a while. He'd moved out. And the story that I heard was that he'd moved himself out when they had a baby, and that was 11 years ago. So he'd basically been living door to door, let's say, for the last however many years before he decided to make our house his base. He spent a lot of time here in winter. I mean, I know that some of you will have seen him on a couple of my videos, and I know occasionally people have asked after him and how he is and that. But yeah, I'm really sorry. It's not a nice video, this. So later last Friday night, because last Friday was also her daughter's 11th birthday, which is how we know that he'd been on the street for the last 11 years. She also told us that the cat rescue that she got him from, they'd said that they thought he was about 9 years old and he'd been living as a stray when he came to them. And she says when they went to look for a cat, they'd seen him outside at the rescue, and he was in a rabbit hutch on his own. And the rescue place said it was because he liked to be outdoors. So, I don't know, that just sounded a bit odd to me, you know, on the part of the rescue place. But she says that they went home and she felt awful about this poor cat that was in a rabbit hutch by himself. So they went back the next day and got him because she couldn't leave him there. And you know what? All credit to her for that. I'm glad that they did that. So yeah, he spent the last 11 years on the street here. He did have a lot of feeding stations and a lot of people liked him, and everybody that knew him, nobody has ever had a bad word to say about him. If you can say, you know, with any conviction about a cat that the cat in question did not have a nasty bone in his body, that is the description that you can give to Louis. He was very special. So one of the places that he used to go for food was a few doors up the street, and so we knew that the lady there has got cats. So I took her the rest of Louis' food that we got in the freezer, the catkin food, and she told us a little bit about him coming there. She said that when the other cats would go there for feeding, you know, like whether they were her cats or others on the street, he would stand to one side and wait until they finished eating and then go and see if there were any leftovers. And to her credit, as soon as she saw that happening, she made sure that he got a meal of his own every time after that. So she was upset that he'd gone. And so yeah, the woman that he originally lived with came down to collect him after they came back from taking her daughter out for a birthday. And I got to see him just before he went with her. He really did look as though he was asleep. He looked as though he would just get up at any time and just say, put your hand. But he looked so peaceful, he really did. I just wish... I know that my having been with him when he went wouldn't have probably had any difference, any impact on that. But if... I mean, I didn't know it was going to go. And now I'm just babbling, aren't I? But yeah, he was a very special cat. And like I say, nobody on the street had got a bad word to say about him. Everybody liked him. He wasn't one for cuddling. He didn't like to be picked up. But then some cats are like that. He would come on your knee on his terms. As you might have seen on a couple of the videos where he's jumped on my knee and sunk his claws in. But yeah, I thought I owed it to you guys that occasionally ask about him to let you know what had happened. Nobody knows exactly what happened. And like I say, he was not presenting as ill. It could be something like a heart attack that just in an instant, and I sincerely hope that that's what it was. But if I'd have known that it was going to happen, I would have cancelled my volunteering shift and I would have stayed at home, even though my being there probably wouldn't have had an impact on it. So if you've managed to get this far, you know, thank you for sticking with me and listening to me babble on a bit about Louis. So it's a week since he went. And the lady up the road, she was going to get her husband to bury him with the other cats that got in their garden, and she says that she's going to put a stone on his grave so that foxes can't dig him up, which was the thing that I was worried about burying him in our garden about. The foxes round here are nightmares sometimes, and there was no way that I would have wanted that happening to him. So yeah. So that's it. As to whether we'll get more cats or not, I really don't know. it might be something that we consider in the future. We'll just have to see. I had to tell Ian about it as well. He'd gone away for a week last week, and I had to tell him when he came home, and that was awful. He was as upset as I was. It was awful. So anyway, now you know that if you have fur kids of your own, you know, please do give them a bit of extra love on behalf of Louis. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye bye.